everyone. Welcome to the January edition of the Morgan Horse Source. We have the mother and daughter duo of Morgan SafeNet, and we'll just start with an introductory video. All right, so we can get right into the questions. So I guess I'll start. For the first question, when and how did you start Morgan SafeNet?
That was started actually. I kind of grew up and I did grow up in the Morgan industry. I took lessons at Oakland Farms in West Newbury, and just grew up on the New England circuit, actually working for trainers there. So I've always been in the Morgan business and the Morgan industry. And I had taken a break and got married, had kids, and we were actually moving from Maryland at the time to Texas. And it was pretty much en route that was my first exposure to horses, a Morgan being exposed to the kill pen. And doing a lot of searches, finding there was not really a ton of resources out there. The only one that responded to me at the time was Forever Morgans. Everybody else was full or didn't answer the phone. And that's how I first kind of got involved with Morgans in a rescue situation, was volunteering for them. And we've adopted and brought several into the program from their program, actually. And as we got going, every organization has their own skill set and how they run things. And we just kind of took a different route, saw a different route, a different way that was not just the kill pen, and wanted to do more Amish repurposing. So that's kind of where we branched out and started Morgan SafeNet with two other girls at the time, and do more repurposing, I think, than rescue, and a strong bond with the Amish. That was about 2012 we started that.
That's really cool.
The next question is, why did you start Morgan SafeNet?
We really wanted to help Morgans from being at risk, first of all. And we knew there was kind of a bridge to be able to keep them from being lost without their papers, without their identification, and to repurpose them into new jobs that would benefit other people that might not be able to afford a higher dollar Morgans out there and still love them just as much.
And then could you explain like how exactly your organization works?
Right now, we are doing a lot of going out and meeting the Amish community side and trying to kind of build the relationship there. So when the horse is not working for them, we have a resource for them to list first their horse into our market, because really their only way is to take them to auction. and help kind of spread the word that that's not just because they've been on the road, that doesn't mean they're finished. They have other things they can do.
But you've taken relinquishes and stuff.
Yeah.
It's been in, like, since she started, it's been evolving, and we've had a lot of owner relinquishes and direct pulls from local kill pens and all that kind of stuff. But now we're focusing a lot on the education aspect and building a relationship with the Amish and just trying to get more people to take action and I guess step up and
Be a resource
Yeah.
instead of just the source.
Okay, the next question is, how does Morgan SafeNet promote the Morgan breed?
Well, we've actually, a lot of our current adopters, and I want to say going back, are people who have never been, they've heard of Morgans or they've never heard of Morgans. So we're pretty much introducing and adopting out to more people who are very new to the Morgan breed, and find it affordable to be able to take a good horse and see the benefit of the breed. So I feel like a lot of even our followers on Morgan SafeNet aren't really from the Morgan side. They're new people that have been introduced to the breed.
And now building off of that, how do you find these new people, and how do you work on outreach to these new prospective Morgan owners and go about educating them about the breed?
We're always, when we adopt out, we're always a resource. We like updates. We like keeping that relationship with the people. So we're always there to help kind of guide and direct. And in doing so, like for instance, there's a person who's just driving, and he used to drive halflingers more than Morgans. So now he's going to be taking his Morgan horse out and driving and introducing. There was a lady that she was an endurance rider. She'd always had quarter horses or Arabians, and everywhere she went, she talked about Morgans, and they saw how well she did. So it's twofold by building that relationship with them and having us be that resource back for them. And I don't know if that was the answer to the whole question, but
Yeah.
about the other part.
I think mostly it's kind of hard to tell. I think a lot of it has been word of mouth. And there's also been a couple people that hear about Morgans and then they go to like AMHA, like their website, or they contact them somehow. And we've had some people that have been referred to from AMHA to us. So I don't know, they just end up finding us. I think we have a pretty steady appearance on social media.
Social media is our biggest push. And we do go out to other events and of course bring them the Morgans with us. But I think it really spreads through social media. Somebody knows somebody and then gets back in touch, and it's really kind of funny. Some things take off and you'll see in the feed, oh, you're in Texas, and you know, how close are you? So it's funny how it's just luck of hitting the right person through constantly exposing that, which I've always kind of believed how rescues could continue to work together. We might not have what one person needs, but by sharing that resource of another rescue who does have it, you're touching more people. They keep coming back for that same thing, and it gets broader instead of smaller.
I guess that's another point too. To be honest, there aren't that many active Morgan rescues. I mean, I feel like the two main ones, there's us and Forever Morgans, and then there's like a few more private people. So when you look up Morgan Rescue, it's pretty easy, I feel like, to narrow it down and and people, I mean, when someone's looking for a horse, and a lot of people tag either us or Morgan or Forever Morgan. So
Yeah.
stuff like that go along with social media, I guess.
Okay. The next question is, how does your organization prevent Morgans from ending up in rescues?
That's a hard question. We can never guarantee that we can prevent that from happening, but I think by doing our best to try and be that resource to spread the word when a horse is available or an owner is sick, or educating is a big thing with the different types of auctions that are out there. Not all auctions are going to lead to just it's an automatic kill pen, automatic broker situation. But that doesn't mean all auctions are right for your horse, and maybe sticking out that sale just a little bit longer to find that right person for your horse is worth it, to be the best steward you can be for your horse, instead of it being about the immediate sale. So I think a big part is just trying to educate on the process, and trying to be the best resource we can be for every horse that, you know, is at risk or becomes at risk.
Yeah, I'd say education, as she said. I mean, another thing is just promoting, keep bettering our practices with horses, like responsible breeding and better horse care, just general stuff like that, to think more, when you're buying a horse, it's not just buying a horse. We have to educate people that it's a much bigger responsibility than that. And then same goes, I mean, we've dealt with a lot of horses that have fallen into bad situations, and the breeder has the means to buy back and to help their horse, but they end up not doing that. So stuff like that, where, especially in our breed, like the Morgan breed, we need to just promote stuff like that. I hope that made sense.
It did. And now, how do you find these horses and or connect them with trainers and breeders, and then with the Amish community as well?
Well, we have a lot for the Amish community. I've been out just footing it really at different sales and building those relationships. I have volunteers that take over. I have a good Amish friend that kind of keeps me in the loop and continues to make the connection with his community. And from there, the word gets spread. For the general public, either people know of us or end up by contact us. But a lot of the private relinquishes, it's been, we've heard of you, whether it be they found us on Facebook or that kind of thing. But again, the advertising of what's available, we do a lot of the evaluations either with some trusted fosters that we know, or pretty much here and rehab. And again, it's a lot of social media, putting the word out there of the status of the horse.
Okay. The next question is, what is the most difficult aspect of running Morgan SafeNet?
How honest do you want us to be?
As honest as possible.
Probably it's kind of a toss-up between the length of time and the expenses it actually takes on taking in a horse, to rehabbing it, to know that it can go to a good home, and then probably the evaluation that we're matching. You know, we have the package where if the horse doesn't work or if it's a problem, we'll take it back, no questions asked. We want to be that support, but at the same time, we want to make it as good of a match and a fit for this person that we don't have to take it back, and it's not just kind of a trial and error deal.
Yeah.
And then if you've had them a long time, it's the letting go is a hard thing.
Yeah.
But you know, you can't keep
I
them all
guess
either.
it's, I mean, when you are doing rescue work, you have to be, you have to have a pretty solid emotional awareness. Like it takes a lot out of you to constantly see these horses end up in bad situations. And sometimes, I mean, we're full right now, but I mean, does it mean we're like, we stop seeing horses at auctions or at kill pens that are very local to us or far away, or, you know, horses that just we know for a fact should not be there. Like there was no reason for these horses to end up there. And to see the bad shape they can be in and just stuff like that. And yeah, like my mom said, taking just all the time in the world. Sometimes these horses make great progress and become wonderful horses, and then sometimes they take a little longer. And it's hard to, you know, explain the potential that they have when they're at that state. Even though we know that they have tons of potential.
Yeah, and the physical is easier to get past than the emotional baggage that some of them carry. It just takes a long time.
And we deal with people from all over the country. So, you know, finding people that we can actually trust without seeing them face to face or really knowing them can be really hard to try and evaluate who, I mean, whether it be volunteers, fosters, or I mean, even homes are probably the hardest. So, and there's many layers more, but we'll keep it at that.
And now bouncing off of that, but hopefully a little bit more lighthearted, what is the most rewarding part of it?
Seeing the horses connect with the adopter and in person, and seeing, you know, that they all come at risk or become at risk because they were no good. They weren't good enough at some point. So to see the adopter or even the foster just fall in love and appreciate them for who they are, and then seeing that connection between the two of them, that's probably the most rewarding.
Yeah, the happy endings.
Yeah.
So that's best.
And then changing the subject a little bit, do you take donations, and what kind of things do you most frequently need?
Probably, we do take donations. You know, it all adds up. So, you know, there's everything that comes with unexpected ownership, like the driver horse we just adopted out. He ended up by going in for an impaction just before Christmas, and without the help of a private sponsor, you know, he might not be here because we wouldn't have been able to afford it. So it's kind of everything from general maintenance, where you carry the horse for so long. We have a lot of adoptees that are just senior horses right now, and you know, they aren't ready to say goodbye to this world. They have plenty of life left to live, but there's the age is a stopper for a lot of people. So they're here just kind of living the best life they can, but they still, it's the general maintenance, I think, the general care. They still need their feet done. They still need to be wormed. They still need hay, food, that kind of thing. I would say probably the general day to day is probably the most thing that takes out and away from the maintenance part of it.
Yeah, like you said, most of them are retirees that we have, and most of them reside with us. So I mean, we have our lesson horses, our training horses, our adoptables that we are in training with, and all the other ones in between, personal horses, all that. And then on top is our majority percentage of senior horses. So mostly stuff like that.
And now I saw that your Facebook said that you guys are mostly volunteer based. So do you take like public volunteers? Are there any age or experience requirements? If so?
Actually, we've only recently had requests to come volunteer on the property, and we're willing to really teach anybody about the Morgan, whether it's a day or, if they just want to groom, we're open to that side of it, because there's so many that can't get that one-on-one without having an extra set of hands to do it.
Okay, the next question is, do each of you have Morgans that are particularly notable in your experience with working for Morgan SafeNet?
You can go first.
What would you call notable?
Like
Just
the most memorable?
most memorable.
Most important, right?
Like, yeah, like one that has a particular soft spot for you, or like one that you had a really hard time letting go.
I have to pick just one.
As many as you want, but no.
Wow.
I have to mention Kid and Air.
Yeah, Kid and Air were the first ones that we've had, and they were both Amelia's first show horse was Spring Mill Heir Apparent, and Chloe's first show horse as a rescue was
My
Kid Hope.
sister, Chloe.
Yeah, and Air was actually the first bred horse of the Spring Mill farm out in Indiana. And I think probably watching the year he was rescued, she took him to Morgan Grand National that year. And the breeder came up behind, I didn't know it at this time, but he came up with a whole packet, a CD, old photos, and was just very thankful for the story of him being a rescue and the connection with the Amish home. And he's still here. He's pushing 31.
Yeah, I don't think
he knows that old. He's that old.
He was in an auction, right?
Yeah, he was in a kill pen. That was quite some years ago.
And I showed him in his 20 and plus years, and just a couple years ago we retired him. I mean, I didn't show him up until his last show year, but we had kids ride him and stuff. So
yeah, he was using the lesson program, and he's just kind of retired now.
Yeah.
But
and then there's Kid.
Yeah. And Kid, actually, Chloe made it all the way to, she got second one year at her last walk trot season. She was second in equitation in a big class, and Kid was blind in one eye, and he didn't love anybody when he first came here. And I was thinking, what did I do? But he came around to her really quickly and really fast. And they're still
And he
They've still
also
got a bond.
came.
They
He
came
also
together.
came from, yeah, they both came from a kill pen, and kid is not the modern look at all. He was he was Amish bred, right? Yeah.
Mhm.
Kid was Amish bred, and he ended up at the kill pen, and blind in one eye, eventually had to get that eye removed. And he was not the like ideal Western pleasure horse. He did not have a tail. He had a really thin mane, very
Still does.
stocky, and he just plodded around. But yeah, and they got national reserve one year, so
Yeah.
that was pretty cool. And then there's probably plenty others that have impacted us in the program. For me personally, air's definitely one. I've seen I've had a couple that I've worked with since I was really young that I grown attached to, and they found their forever home. But probably the most personal one to date right now is my current horse, Ricky. He was bred. He's an ultras horse, so I'm assuming he was show bred, and eventually ended up Amish for like 6 years, I want to say, or maybe less. And then someone bought him to be a show horse, and she had him in training and worked with him for like 3 years, and it wasn't really working out. So she reached out to my mom, who she was originally inspired by, to even take a chance on this Amish horse just at a random sale. He didn't even look Morgan. He was so skinny. He looked saddlebred, and there was like no chance at all that he was definitively papered, like he was registered with anything. So she took a real chance with him. Luckily, he was registered into Morgan. So, yeah, but training just, I don't know, it wasn't working out. So she sent him here, and eventually she just relinquished him to us. And at the time, I was kind of falling out of showing. I kind of lost a lot of confidence, and he was not a show horse. he was a lot of work. I mean, he has pushed me a lot, and even though he was that difficult, he gave me that confidence, and he made it fun for me. And so he's the most difficult journey I've been on with a horse by far. So very rewarding, and he means a lot. So
That's awesome. And then kind of really building off of that, do you have any really touching or memorable moments to share?
Probably her last year. It was her last year as a junior exhibitor, and she was showing in the equitation class, and the class was huge. And we worked really hard with Ricky to get through a rail class. At that point, the patterns weren't the problem. He was the only one in the arena, but he would only at him. So you had to get in the right spot. And I don't know how many kids were in that class.
it was
20?
it was a championship, so it was like 16 or 17.
Yeah,
people.
it was full. And I knew when she was getting ready to ask him to canter, she was already in trouble. And he bolted away, and I was ready to bolt in and save the day, but I didn't have to, because I watched her. She maneuvered in and out of that crowd. She did not interfere with anybody else's ride, and she trained her horse. She brought him back down. She re-asked him to canter, and she did that twice on the rail to show that he was in control and not going to do it. And he didn't do it, and he didn't do it the rest of the class. she didn't pin, but it was important at that point. And she did it unfazed. I mean, she was really proud of her ride when she came out, and I was proud of her for doing what was best for the horse instead of worrying about what went wrong. So it was a very proud moment.
Yeah, and after that episode, he did a perfect pattern.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think you guys froze just a little bit.
It's the
Sorry, can you
same
repeat
for
that?
me. I mean, Ricky, he was a bricks with every. So it was, I'd say the same like memory is with Ricky at nationals that one year, because just in general the journey I've had with him, he wasn't easy. He was like very tense like when we first got him. It was like working with a brick wall. He was not soft at all, and he hated cantering, and he was really fast in the canter. I mean, it was just everything, not even a rail horse, let alone an equitation horse. So I was able to bring him like from not just doing rail, but to be able to do equitation patterns and at a show and at national level. So that last year as a junior exhibitor and showing him in equitation and doing patterns and doing the medal and all that, even though we didn't have some pretty moments, it was like, I mean, I got 7th in the qualifier at class out of like also 16 or something. It was crazy. But that was a huge moment. So yeah, that's what I'd say.
What is it like working together as a mother-daughter duo?
It's great. No, no, I am proud of her for all she's done, and to watch her grow as an equestrian and see how she's accomplished with different horses and working with different horses still, and her enthusiasm to always be open to change perspective and treat each horse as an individual. So I like that it's family.
Yeah. It's not always easy, but I probably wouldn't be the person I am today without my mom being like that role model and to show me this world in a sense of, you know, showing and rescue and resources and training and like everything that goes along with this. So I wouldn't have all this. I wouldn't have all these opportunities. I wouldn't be the person I am today. I wouldn't have these goals and dreams and aspirations without her. So I think it's really great and important.
And now you guys have definitely touched on this already. But what is the training aspect of your organization like? Do you have to train every horse that comes through, or just some of the ones that you're really trying to have a particular goal for?
It's not really training, it's kind of retraining, because most of them are or were trained to do something with an expectation, but
or we're Amish. So
yeah, well, you know, the Amish horses tend to be, you know, I gotta go fast, and there is a lot of tension with them already. just because of the expectation. It doesn't make it bad, but you know, you come into the barn and they have to relearn that they can, you know, step it down a notch. They don't have to walk off right away. It's, you know, some of the driving horses were, as soon as they felt the lines, they were going. And it's more of a retraining process, I think, and getting the mind a little bit toned down so they can put what they've learned in a different perspective.
And it depends a lot with each horse. We've had some that we thought would be, would come, we'd evaluate them, and then we'd see or think about and plan training and retraining out. But some of them come up with a lot of health issues. That was the main block in the first place. Like, we've had there's a lot of show horses that end up in primarily Amish auctions. So most of those horses already have really, really good training behind them, but something that the people that had them missed was that they had like an abscess in their foot, or, you know, had back pain, or just needed to take a couple steps back, or, you know, stuff like that. Ulcers, anything. Yeah, mostly ulcers. There's a lot of ulcer courses, but depends, and sometimes it's health that makes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Kind of going off that, what kind of horses do you bring in, and what kinds of horses typically need your help and come into your program?
I think we've had a
good
variety.
range. Yeah.
We've attended auctions directly, whether it's with volunteers there. And I think some of the most recent ones were, there was a couple aged brood mares that were run through as drivers or riders, but couldn't be bred any longer. So instead of continuing that cycle of being passed around and, you know, too old to be driving, and not likely going to be bred, we get them at a lower price to be able to train them, hopefully to be someone's trail partner, or, you know, something like that. And then we've gotten young ones. I've got a client who purchased directly, knowing there was a show horse going through an Amish sale, and purchased him, and he took a lot of rehab. He's been through 2 colic surgeries and a lot of retraining, and she's just been patient in the process. And he actually had a really good year-end show here. So there's a good variety if there's the right, if we have the right financial backing to get them into our program.
Yeah, mostly a lot of we watch closely popularly the auctions and kill pens, but other than that, we've taken a couple, well, direct Amish.
Yeah,
we've
some
had
directly through the Amish, and some just owner relinquish.
Yeah, owner relinquish. And but we're not looking for anything really specific. Like, of course, we're a Morgan rescue, so we tend to we try and promote the Morgans, and we try to protect the Morgans and focus on that. But we've had a few thoroughbreds and Arabians and other horses that have fallen into our program. Just
Mostly local.
Yeah, those ones are local or mostly local. But yeah, so we've kind of had a big variety.
That's really cool. And now, do you have any advice to someone who wants to help Morgans, maybe start their own organization or kind of train or retrain, like you mentioned before?
I think if you have a good connection, a good support base, and you know of a situation where a Morgan might be put into a job it may not be suited for, or is going a route that would eventually end in that, we, as far as helping train, can also be a resource to reach out to for information, but the best one is going to be the group closest to you. So if you have access to a good trainer, a good vet, a good farrier, that you can really sit down and consult with and help advise when you hit any kind of a roadblock, the closest people to you are always going to, be the most helpful. But we definitely are willing to advise or help anybody who is looking at, which we have. So people contact us all the time about, there's a Morgan going through Moores, and which is a broker in Pennsylvania, and what do you think? And we can advise them there, but we might not be able to physically take them into our program.
Yeah,
I'd be cautious,
Yeah,
do your research, do your homework, make sure that you're set up for the long term of it. Make sure you're in, and not every pull is a happy ending. We've pulled horses that were either so sick or so hiddenly lame that we've had to euthanize them, but that was the best choice to make. So you have to be ready for all those cards that can happen. It's not just because the broker's saying, he's young, he's beautiful, they're going to tell you anything because they want to make their money.
Yeah, I'd say you can reach out to rescues like ours. We also have programs like the Youth Trainer Alliance. So we try and give opportunities to we try and give opportunities to as many people as possible to get involved in this type of work. With the Youth Trainer Alliance, it was an idea to get youth involved and actually be sent a horse to work with, and with help from like a trainer, but they would have more freedom to be on their own, but still have like a trainer nearby to help them if they need it. But stuff like that. So reaching out to rescues that do have programs like that, or even just rescues in your area. They don't even have to be Morgan horse rescues. I'd say like volunteering and seeing if any rescue that you've done your research on would be a lot of help, and to get the idea. And we even have, we partner with a few barns too, all throughout the country. So we could even recommend some places to check out and stuff like that.
And lastly, is there anything else you want to share or you want people to know?
That pretty much covers it. That was a lot.
Yeah. I don't know. Don't be afraid to ask questions. We work with a lot of different horses and we work with a lot of different people. And I don't know.
I think don't be afraid to communicate and talk. You know, if you're selling your horse, try and keep that relationship with whoever purchased your
That's a good
horse.
one.
You don't have to you know, hound them every day for a picture or an update, but it's, I think keeping the relationship and not just you know, once the horse is gone, the horse is gone and it's not your problem anymore, is part of what's causing a gap in where these horses end up.
Yeah.
And at the same time, be open. This happened just recently it was a random horse that was posted on Facebook, and it was said that she had papers, and it was just kind of guessing at the name. And I did research on the registry and I actually found out who she was, and I went back and I contacted the former owner and the breeder, and luckily the breeder is taking her home, but we had to sneakily get the horse because it was a person that would have most likely brokered her. But at the same time, the former owner had sold to this person who posted her on Facebook as available and not working. And it turns out everybody had reached out to someone at some point, but it wasn't with like, it was kind of like a casual, are you interested in having her back? And if the person said no, they kind of just didn't, it seemed like they didn't continue that conversation. Where if they had asked just a few more questions, like, well, what does that mean? Is she not working? Or, you know, are you going to sell her somewhere else? I think that's an important bridge to make, because ultimately this mare could have been lost and lost without her papers. And that's just one nick in the chain. So I guess just be aware. I mean, you could have somebody call you tomorrow and say, you know, are you interested in my horse? And if you say no, because you're really not thinking of, you know, just kind of a casual thing, but it could be like, if you had a little bit more conversation, like, you know, are you in trouble? Do you need some money for hay or whatever? You might find out more information to keep that horse. I guess don't wait till it gets to the bottom of the chain to feel like you have to rescue it. It might be so close to needing that outreach if there was just more communication going on between people instead of not really thinking, you know, twice about saying no, I guess.
Yeah.
Just something to think about.
Yeah. That's a good one.
Yeah, those are really good points. That was our last question. Does anybody else have any questions? All right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us. So you guys are really informational.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Yeah.
You guys had some really great questions.
Yeah. All right.